Hey guys, we are in day 214 in our Bible reading plan, 2 Chronicles 31 through 33 and Psalm 1. We're making our way back through Psalms. Psalms is a prayer book, so it's a great adjunct to reading the scriptures, and so meditate on each psalm and pray through it. But today's big idea is that living generously and experiencing God's favor are byproducts of a heart that is humble to God and consecrated to his ways. And we see that in the King Hezekiah. He's such a godly king. There's a revival happening to his people. And one of the signs of revival is that we give and give and give. And there's no fear, there's no hoarding, there's abundance. And so you see in verse 5 and 6 and going into verse 7, this language of abundantly tithing, piling up the heaps. And the priest telling Hezekiah, since they began to bring the contributions, we have eaten and have enough and have plenty leftovers. And that's really how Jesus worked in the New Testament. When he fed them, each time there was a miracle of the feeding, there was plenty left over. And so they were faithful and keeping themselves holy in verse 18, and then going into verse 21. I love the testimony of Hezekiah. Every work that he undertook in the service of the house of God, he did with all of his heart, and he prospered. And so I want that sign of generosity in my life, don't you? That's how you know you're trusting God and you're having personal revival. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get spiritual attack. In fact, that is a big part of Hezekiah's story. The enemy comes against him and they make him try to doubt God and his word, and they mock him. And what does he do? He turns to God. Chapter 32, verse 7 through 8. What an encouraging passage of scripture to remind us to be strong and courageous, not to be afraid of the enemy. God is with us. No one can stand against him. And I need that reminder today, and I'm sure you do too. And so that story we're familiar with from before, but read it again and let your heart be encouraged. And the Lord shows up for him. Now, when he gets big, he gets a little proud. And to his credit, Hezekiah does humble himself to the Lord. But we see a lot of this kind of, real life Christian testimony of Hezekiah. Things go well. He sort of leans away from God, but then he realizes when he gets sick that there's a problem. And so it says in chapter 32, verse 24 through 26 is that section where Hezekiah humbles himself for the pride of his heart. Is there pride in your heart? Sometimes it's hard to hear that. You might think, no, if things are going great. But maybe that's what God is trying to point out in your life as you feel some of the burden of suffering. And so while suffering is not always an indication that there's sin, sometimes it is, and sometimes it's just an opportunity to turn to God and to say, hey, Lord, if there's anything you're trying to clear up in my life, do so now. Now, we move from Hezekiah, he sleeps with his fathers, end of chapter 32, and move into Manasseh. Despite all of the godliness of Hezekiah, Manasseh is not a God who loves the Lord at first, and he burns his sons as an offering. Now, interesting, there's a turn of events in chapter 33, verse 10, because unlike Hezekiah, who at first things were going well, and then he becomes proud here, this guy starts off really bad, but then he gets taken up by the enemy. And so what does he do? He humbles himself. He gets captured in verse 11, and then when he was in distress, he entreated the favor of the Lord his God and humbles himself greatly. He goes from burning his sons as an offering to seeking God, and so God forgives him and pours favor on him. And so he restores the altar of the Lord, and his prayer moves God. And of course, then his son comes after him, and he did not humble himself before the Lord. So with every life, there's this choice. Are you going to humble yourself before God or not? And so going back sort of to our big idea today, to remember that there are choices and there are consequences. And so are you living generously? Are you humble of heart and consecrating your ways to God? And if so, your life will show it in every way. I love you guys.